section 2. We're going to switch gears, and I want to talk to you about why I believe that this program, or cognitive behavioral therapy, why it works so well. So you can put in your first little blank there under section 2. CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, is a systematic approach to changing the way we think, which will ultimately affect our actions. It's a systematic approach to changing the way we think, which will ultimately affect our actions. Cognitive behavioral therapy is basically the belief, or the understanding, I guess would be a better word, that our thoughts cause our feelings and behavior. That what goes on up here will determine how you act and how I act. Not what's on the outside of us, okay? Not necessarily external things like people, situations, and events. Now, why is this important? The benefit of this is that we can change the way we can feel or we can change the way we act despite our surroundings. And this is really important. This is really important to understanding this. You see, when we talk about addiction, all addictions have one thing in common, and that's a chemical reaction inside the brain. I mean, people have been studying the brain for years, and it's not an exact science. It's kind of a soft science, if you will, and there's a lot of theories on there, but they've been able to really make a lot of strides in how the brain functions and works, and I've been studying it for quite some time now. It's fascinating to see how the brain works. One of the things we know about all addictions, I don't care if it's shopping or alcohol or gambling or whatever the addiction might be, is that there is a release of chemicals, feel-good chemicals in the brain called endorphins, or a chemical called dopamine, all right? And this is released in the brain, and it creates this good feeling that we have. And that's why we return to this, and it's a God-given thing. I mean, God created these chemical reactions within us so that you and I can enjoy a day at the amusement park. You can enjoy a kiss from your lover, or you can that embrace you get from your child. Any one of these things release these feel-good chemicals in our brains. All of what's going on in our brain is chemical reactions. Here's the beauty of it. The very chemicals that move along our synapses can and create these grooves, or these habits that we have. We also can alter those chemicals. God has created our brain to be able to be rewired. And we can rewire the way that we think. But this has to be done cognitively, or through a process that we call CBT. So how does it work in the brain? So let's talk a little bit about CBT and its work in the brain. You know, a lot of us, when we talk about the brain, we think about right brain and left brain, and we use these terminology, right? Well, he's a right brain person, or she's a left brain person, meaning that when we think of a right brain person, we think of somebody who's kind of artsy. They're artistic, and they think abstractly a little bit better. But if I'm a left brain person, then I'm more analytical or logical. And so we use these terms in society to describe the person. The truth of the matter is there are a right and left hemisphere in the brain. It is true, but really the brain is a unit, and it works interactively. It's very, very complex. For any of you who have studied it, you probably know a lot more than I do, but it's just fascinating. But I'm going to kind of stick with this right brain and left brain, because that, at least we understand the analogy, okay? So just stick with me on the whole thought of a right brain and a left brain. So if we think of the right brain as our processing of information, and the left brain as the information center. So let's talk about the left brain. The left brain is like the information center of the brain. All the facts and figures, everything that we need to know to make, that we have for information. It's like file cabinets. If you were to visualize a file cabinet, inside your left brain, quote unquote, is a file cabinet system. Okay, so you pull, let's say that we had a file in there that says dogs. Everything, all the information that you've ever learned about dogs is in that filing cabinet or that file folder in the left side of your brain. What breeds there are, everything you know about dog food, everything you know about fleas, if you're a dog owner or not a dog owner, you have information about dogs, and that's in this file cabinet, which is stored in the left-hand side of the brain. However, there's the right-hand side of your brain, so to speak, that we're going to talk about, because that's really where the more experiential aspect of understanding dogs. So, for instance, as soon as I said dogs, we have, I don't know how many people we have in this room, 35 or 40 people in this room, okay? We have different experiences with dogs, don't we? Some of you grew up with a dog, and your dog slept in, at the foot of your bed, and it was, you just had wonderful experiences with dogs, and you're just a dog person, and you love dogs, right? And so when I say dogs, all of a sudden, warm feelings about dogs flood your mind. But some of you, maybe in this room, unfortunately, might have had a bad experience with a canine. Maybe when you were 3 or 4, very young, a pit bull came up and bit you. And so your experience with dogs is very negative. Now, here's the thing. Let's say that you've been bit by a pit bull when you were 3, and you have a great fear of dogs. And I come alongside of you, and I give you all sorts of information about dogs, and how I grew up with my dog, and, all dogs aren't bad, and, if you just approach a dog the right way, you're going to... Do you think that information only is going to change that individual's mind? Not likely. Because the experience is going to override the information. You don't think that cognitively the person who is afraid of dogs doesn't look out in the world and see all the dog lovers digging on their dogs? They see that, all right? But that makes no difference because of their experience with the dogs. If we have a right-hand side that's more experiential, we have a left-hand side that's more informative, what together they create is this three-dimensional picture of the reality that I have when it comes to dogs. And this is how our brain works. And so we have to understand that it's the right-hand side of the brain, so to speak, that we're talking about here, that is the executive control center of the brain. This is really our reality about how we make decisions.